Welcome to the Explainer. Legal texts aren't always the easiest things to visualize, but today we are looking at something truly fascinating. We're diving right into Part X of the Indian Maritime Incident and Emergency Response Framework to see exactly how it acts as a bright, highly proactive playbook for maritime safety. Because let's face it, when it comes to protecting our oceans, our ships, and our crews, having a structured, visual, and easy-to-understand plan isn't just nice to have. It is absolutely vital.
So think about this for a second. Picture the sheer dynamic energy of the ocean. When a massive storm hits the coast of India, or some unexpected crisis unfolds at sea, who is actually legally in charge of the rescue? In a high-stakes environment like that, there is literally no time for confusion or bureaucratic delays, right? We need a coordinated, active response where everyone knows their exact role. And that's exactly what this law sets up. These positive, dynamic stakes. It's not about bracing for a disaster, it's about anticipating those challenges and having a proactive master plan ready to roll out the very second it's needed. Okay, let's dive into how this playbook is laid out. Here is our agenda for today. First, the Maritime Safety Playbook. 2, defining the emergency. 3, the chain of command. 4, the power to requisition. And finally, 5, the financial safety net.
All right, starting off with Section 1, the Maritime Safety Playbook. And specifically, where exactly does this law apply?
Before any rescue operation can even begin, we have to establish the jurisdiction of Section 223. Now, on one hand, it's pretty obvious. The law applies directly to the operations of all Indian vessels. But here's the crucial part. It also covers foreign vessels the very moment they enter an Indian port, an offshore terminal, or even just Indian coastal waters. So it really doesn't matter what flag the ship happens to be flying. If it's in Indian waters, it falls under this protective framework. It's honestly a beautifully simple way to ensure universal accountability right from the jump. Moving right along to Section 2, defining the emergency, which covers our triggers and actions. Now that we know exactly who is covered, what actually triggers this well-oiled machine into swift action under Section 224? Well, first, the law clearly defines a marine incident as an event or a sequence of events that endangers the safety of a vessel, its occupants, or the environment. And what's wonderfully reassuring about this is just how comprehensive it is. It actively anticipates bad weather, specifically calling out cyclones and storms alongside your standard marine casualties and violations. So the framework is really designed to trigger protective measures early, keeping both the environment and the people on board safe from a huge variety of threats.
So once a marine incident is triggered, the law demands a maritime emergency response. And the wording here is highly specific. It literally mandates speedy action to ensure minimum damage. The whole goal is to mitigate, contain, restore, and provide relief. It's all about protecting the vessel, the passengers, the seafarers, the cargo, and of course, the marine environment. It is just an entirely active protective mandate.
This brings us to Section 3, the chain of command, or the players on the board. Because, every successful playbook absolutely needs a clear hierarchy to orchestrate a response without any confusion. Under Sections 225 and 226, it all starts right at the top with the central government, which appoints and supervises. Then, they hand things off to the nodal authority, who actively administers and directs the emergency response. And finally, we reach the primary response party, and that's the ship owners, the masters of the vessels, and the seafarers themselves. And the absolute crucial takeaway here is that the primary response party, meaning the crew actually out there on the ship, they are legally bound to comply with all directions, advisories, or instructions issued by that nodal authority. There is no debate. There's no time wasted arguing over the radio. The nodal authority instructs, and the primary response party executes. It is just a perfectly streamlined, highly effective chain of command.
Up next is Section 4, the power to requisition. This is all about cutting through the red tape.
Under Section 228, the nodal authority essentially acts as a highly empowered emergency dispatcher with literal legal superpowers. To manage an emergency, they can instantly requisition the services of central government officers, state government officers, any police officer, and crucially, they can commandeer resources and pollution prevention equipment from any of those offices. I mean, this is a brilliant structural design. It completely slices through bureaucratic red tape. If a ship is in trouble and leaking fuel, the nodal authority doesn't have to sit there navigating endless paperwork. They just pull the exact equipment and personnel they need immediately, prioritizing environmental protection and rapid rescue. And just to be absolutely clear on how strong this law is, compliance is definitely not a suggestion. The framework explicitly states that it is the legal duty of every single officer, authority, or organization to comply with that requisition. Simply put, when the nodal authority calls for help during a marine incident, you answer the call,
period.
Now, while all of this dynamic, boots-on-the-ground action is happening on the front lines, the central government is constantly working in the background. As outlined in Sections 227 and 230, they are responsible for setting the specific rules, notifying the ongoing plans for prevention, and detailing the exact procedures for these maritime emergency responses. Basically, they make sure the playbook is always updated and ready to go. Which brings us to our final section, Part 5, the financial safety net, which is all about accountability. It's great to have a highly empowered response team, for sure. But Section 229 ensures this entire framework is actually financially backed. The law mandates that every registered owner must, and I quote, maintain adequate insurance coverage or such other financial security and carry on board a certificate or document showing compliance. Remember our earlier discussion on jurisdiction? Well, this applies to Indian vessels and foreign vessels entering Indian waters. Every single ship has to have a mandatory financial safety net in place to cover their liability, and they literally have to physically carry the paperwork on board to prove it. Basically, no insurance, no entry. It guarantees that the massive costs of emergency response and environmental cleanup are fully secured before an incident ever even happens. Which really leaves us with this final thought. When you visualize this entire framework, the proactive anticipation of storms, the uncompromising chain of command, the legal superpower to cut right through red tape and commandeer resources, and the strict mandatory financial accountability, is India setting a brand new global standard for maritime safety? It's a remarkably efficient, visually clear system designed to protect lives and oceans. I really hope this explainer helped you see the brilliant structure behind legislation and leaves you curious to explore exactly how these maritime policies keep our global waters safe. Thanks so much for learning with me today.